I bet a lot of kids will feel the same way when they're doing Fit Kids. They will be the type of person that doesn't really like to work out, maybe feels like they can't do it, and then they get into the class and they're doing it with everybody, and they'll feel better. They'll feel like they can do it. It's fun.
We were just talking about this. So when we did it this summer with our kids, it's like they hated the exercise portion, like they didn't want to do it. But once they saw that all the other kids were struggling too, and it wasn't just them, then they were into it.
Yeah.
And then they were just kind of like, oh, we'll just wait for the game, we'll wait for the game. So it was getting them to do the exercises was kind of hard, but once they like got into it, then they're like, okay, we'll do the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just that push to get them started is kind of,
Yeah.
They had the little ones, they had incoming first graders.
Incoming first graders. So about
they were intimidated,
5,
yeah.
6, or 6.
Yeah.
It's good to share that because when I visited classes before, I asked the kids like, "What's your favorite part about Fit Kids?" And I cannot tell. Like so many times, the response to me is burpees. That's their favorite part about it. And I'm like, "You guys didn't have to do burpees today, Sergio saved you from that." I've never heard an adult say they love burpees. These kids love it. So it does. It just takes them getting into it, doing it a few times with their friends to really enjoy it. So we are going to move on. Remember, there's plenty of water, plenty of snacks, plenty of coffee. If you feel like you still need that for today, keep participating. Keep asking questions. I'm going to introduce Joe Thomas. Joe comes to us from Positive Coaching Alliance. He has worked with Fit Kids for several years. We are so happy to have him here. He's one of the top, I think, most requested trainers at Positive Coaching Alliance. And if not, you should be based on what I've heard. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And you're up.
Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, first of all, once again, my name is Joe Thomas. I'm from Positive Coaching Alliance. Thank you for coming out this morning. Thank you for being a part of the program. And most importantly, on behalf of the kids you work with, we thank you for your time and your commitment and your dedication to the kids. Real quick, a little bit about my background. I grew up in East Oakland, the youngest of 7. Right? I always, because I run a parenting program where I teach parenting classes 3 nights a week, and I always have fun with my siblings. I always say, Mom and Dad kept going until they got it right. In other words, I always say, right, any of you the oldest in your family? Okay. Now I got some news for you. I hate to tell you, you were practice. If you had siblings, you y'all gonna leave with that today, huh? So once again, I grew up in the inner city. Loved playing sports as a kid. Certain sports early on, I rarely got an opportunity to play. Right? Why? Because cultural perception, I was too what?
Small.
Say again?
Small.
You said that out loud? I kept working hard, and eventually I became a 3-sport student athlete in high school. Went on to play college basketball, received a bachelor's degree in communications as well as a master's degree in counseling. I've been with Positive Coaching Alliance probably over 10 years. Okay? I've done over 1,000 of these and close to 25, 26 different states. Right? Like I mentioned, I manage a parenting program. I'm also an author. I have a couple of books out. One called Developing Character Leaders Through Sports for coaches, and I also have one for parents called The Parents Playbook for Raising Character Leaders. Right? I have a heart for young people, right? And that's why I'm here, and I think that's why many of you are here. All right? Now, first year with Fit Kids. Raise your hand for your first year. Okay. Give them a round of applause. Now, one of the things I always say is this, right? And you hear me reiterate it over and over. Telling's not teaching. Telling's not teaching, right? So there's going to be times where I'm going to ask you to pair up and exchange some ideas, and we'll come back. My responsibility today is to bring out the wisdom in the group. Right? There's a lot of wisdom here, so I want to make sure that we're able to share our wisdom. Here's what I love about these workshops, is that I have an opportunity to take what I learned from you and take back to the kids that I work with. All right? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay? First of all, this is considered a customized workshop. One of the things that I did was I looked at the mission statement along with having some conversations with individuals, leaders in the organization, and we came up with what we call a customized workshop. Okay? Now, real quick, how many of you have heard of Positive Coaching Alliance? Okay. How many of you sat in the Positive Coaching Alliance workshop? Okay. How many of you were here last year when I did the workshop? No. Okay. Good. All right. All right. Most people who attended my last year, they say, he's coming back? Oh, no. Okay. Let's start with this idea of the Rooster coaching. First of all, Positive Coaching Alliance was founded in 1998 at Stanford University. And really our goal is to transform youth and high school sports. Well, what does that mean? We just want to make sure that every kid that plays sports or participates in some form of athletics not only have fun, but most importantly, learn life lessons. Those things that can help them be successful outside of the athletic field. Now, here's what I can do. Notice that you have three words there. All right? It says place those words in the correct order. All right? Here's what I'd like you to do. Get together with at least 4 other people, and as a group, I want you to come to a consensus of the order you think those words go in. All right? I'll give you about 3 minutes. Right? So get with, make sure there's at least 5 in the group. Ready to go. We have any more seats in the back? We have more. All right. Let's see if we come back. So, first of all, how many of you were able to come to a consensus? Was there any pushback? Right, good. Okay, who's going to start us off? All right. Give me the order. Let me get some. Okay. Go ahead and stand up first.
We got for number 1, we put why.
Why?
And then 2, we put what. And then how is the third one.
Okay. Why? What? How? Okay. Great. Anyone else? Yes.
We did what first?
What?
This was, can I explain the logic?
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so the way we were thinking about it is like, these 3 words are kind of like how to like solve something or like make something better.
Okay.
So like first, like you kind of have to identify the issue. So like what is the issue?
Okay.
And then, or like what is the problem? And then like why you want to fix it and then how you're going to do it.
Okay. Great. Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything different? What you? Okay.
Ours was just from a different perspective, which
Okay.
is interesting. All of us were like, because we were thinking of like, why are we all here doing this today? So like that's important to us.
Okay.
Obviously, like our mission and why we're here doing this.
Okay.
And then we figured out the what and how from there, but just a different perspective.
Okay. Great. Anyone else? Yes.
We were having also the dilemma of a couple of which comes first, why or what.
Okay.
But a couple of we're thinking about more analytical, step-by-step
Okay.
process. So maybe what should come first,
Okay.
in our opinion. But the fundamental answer to that would be why. So I think that was the conflict. A couple were thinking about the analytical.
Analytical. Okay.
And the other more about the deep meaning of it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So, here's what I encourage you to think about. All right. What we do is important. Make no mistake about it. How we do it is more important than what we do. Why we do it is even more important than how we do it. In other words, here's the order. Why, how, and what? Why, how, and what? Your why is what motivates you. Your why is what keeps you showing up every day. Even when we have to experience some adversity, maybe dealing with some parents. All right? So here's my question. What's your why? You got a minute and a half. Go ahead and write it down. Ready to go. What's your why?
Do we come up with a why as a group or individual?
No, individually. Each individual has their own why. What's your why? Everyone in here may have a different why. Everyone in here may have the same why. But what's your why? Why you show up? So once again, we said what we do is important. Right? How we do it is more important, but why we do it is even more important. So the question is, what's your why? Who gonna start us off? What's your why? Why do you show up?
Have a positive impact in the children's lives.
Okay, what's your name?
Rudy.
Rudy. Rudy says have a positive impact in the kids' lives. Thanks, Rudy. Anyone else? Anything different? What's your why?
To be there for the kids that you don't know what's going on behind closed doors because you think that they're okay and you want to be there more for them and you help them out positively like, oh, you know, I was struggling at home, but because my instructor was very nice, kind to me and understanding, that helped me change my ways or it helped me look at a more positive light.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much. And I'll share a little bit about my experience because that's what happened to me. Right? I had a coach who really took an interest in me during a challenging time in my life. Anyone else? What's your why?
I said to build character skills that's the foundation for lifelong healthy habits.
Okay. Character skills, lifelong happiness. Anyone else? Anything different? What's your why?
To create a moment of joy.
Okay, create a moment of joy. You get an amen. Anyone else?
My why is because I love the youth. I want to see them succeed.
Okay.
I want to be a part of that.
Love the youth. Right. Want to see them succeed. Anyone else I'm talking to?
To empower our students to become critical thinkers and use fitness and exercise in their daily routine.
Okay, great. Empower them. Critical thinkers. Right? Never lose sight of your why. Always start with why. One of my mentors once told me when I was growing up, he said, if your heart's not in it, take yourself out of it. He said, because you cheat yourself and you cheat the kids you're working with. If your heart's not in it, take yourself out of it. Right? So never lose sight of your why. Right? Now, a little bit about the roots of coaching. In my book, I articulate that term coach. That term coach was first used in the 1500s. And it comes from the word stagecoach. When they drove around the community, they picked people up and took them where they wanted to go. Not until the 1880s that most suggested it became an athletic term. And that dealt with some students who were in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who were on a rowing team. They needed help to get from where they were to where they wanted to go. So they hired a tutor. And later that term became coach as an athletic term. So based on the roots of coaching, what is coaching? It's simply meeting people where they are, and here's the shift, taking them where they want to go. I want you to think about that for a moment. It's meeting your kids where they are. They're all in different places. Right? So based on the roots of coaching, the first thing I have to do is assess where each and every one of my kids are. Now, one thing I want to think about is this. If it's meeting kids where they are, we coach kids, not sports. I want to think about that for a moment. I do workshops all over, and I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a basketball coach. You don't coach a ball. You coach a person. Right? Coaching is about what? Communicating. Right? We teach skills, but we coach kids. Right? I coach basketball, but I teach basketball skills. Right? Coach kids, teach basketball skills. Right? Coach kids, teach baseball skills. So we teach skills, but we coach kids. Coaching is about communicating. Right? When it comes to meeting kids where they are, one of the things I think about, and we talk a lot about in youth development, is that it's important to look at kids because oftentimes we look at their what? Chronological age. But there's also areas of development that we need to make sure we focus on. That kid may be 9 years old, chronologically. He or she may be 10 years old. cognitive. Socially, they may be 7. Emotionally, they may be 6. Okay. Physically, they may be what? 9. All 4 of those can be developed. Our kids mature differently. A lot of times based on what? Their environment and their upbringing. When I look back, when I was 9 years old, you best believe, emotionally, I was probably like 6 or 7. All right. Part of it is what? Prefrontal cortex. But also, I was the youngest of 7, and my mother babied me at times. So I'm just simply saying that, right? If you look at that one child, you're really coaching 4 or 5 different kids in one kid. And I know sometimes I heard the ratio sometimes is 1 to 20 or something like that. All right, think about it now. Look at the ratio now. So once again, we're just simply saying it's important to recognize that children develop differently, and that's why it's so important to meet them where they are, right? So we can know who we're coaching, right? Why do some children do not meet expectations? All right. And one reason why I raise this question is because oftentimes in development, there's times where we expect a kid to meet an expectation, and they don't, and sometimes we're frustrated. I'm using the context of kids, but this is what adults do. There's 3 reasons why people don't meet expectations. Number 1, they don't know what the expectation is. So one thing as a coach I have to do when working with kids, or as an instructor, I have to make sure that our kids know what the expectation is of them. Right. Most important reason why, when it comes to development in sports and athletics, right, they have not developed the skill set yet. Right. So once again, right, I always say, right, telling is not teaching. Right. Did I teach in a way to where this kid were able to what? Take in the information and begin to apply it? Right. And then finally, they don't agree with the expectation. Right. What? You want me to run what? So there comes some resistance. So once again, I encourage you to think about it in terms of expectation. Right? Oftentimes you get frustrated when they don't meet an expectation, and sometimes it could be one of those 3 reasons. Right? Temperament. I'm going to talk a lot about character today. Right? In other words, one thing I think about when I think about character is that it's basically your temperament modified by 6 things. I'll give you those 6 things. First of all, we have a what? Primary temperament, and we have a secondary temperament. Okay. Choleric. This is a kid who's what? Confident, but maybe selfish. That's me! I was that kid who was confident, but it was all about me. Sanguine. Optimistic, but what? Undisciplined. Meeting them where they are. I got to find out what their temperament is. Melancholy. Perfectionist, but what? Indecisive. Phlegmatic. Efficient, but has a tendency to be lazy. That's my secondary temperament. My primary temperament is choleric. I thrive in the midst of adversity, right? But I'm not a team player. Right? So I'm just simply saying that I needed a coach to get me to buy into their program. Right? These different temperaments, right, they can benefit from an instructor or coach, to get them to buy into their system. Okay? A sanguine needs organization and structure. Melancholy needs to be given reassurance. Why? Because they're perfectionists. And finally, phlegmatic, right, since they have a tendency to be what? Lazy. You need to appreciate what? Any effort that they give. Reward what you want. Kids do what gets rewarded. And when I say reward, that doesn't mean that you have to give them something tangible all the time. Underserved communities. Right. A generation of traumatized kids. That's what we're working with. Right. Here's some numbers. 48% of children in the U.S. have experienced at least what? One trauma. 23% experience at least 2 or more traumas. 1 in 5 kids have a social, emotional, or behavioral problem at a clinical level. So what does that mean? That means if you're coaching 25 kids, right, there's a possibility that 5 of them may have a social, emotional, or behavioral problem at a clinical level. I've discovered that the toughest thing when it comes to coaching or parenting is dealing with kids' misbehavior. From my experience. And I think that's why it's so important to kind of take a look at that. All right. Why don't parents seek services? Because they're, sorry.
What are you calling a trauma? What the study referring?
I'm going to give you the 7. Okay? I'm glad you asked. Why? Because I want to do an exercise so you can kind of think about and meditate on, wow, how many of my kids have experienced this trauma? Right? ACEs talks about the 7. I'm going to give you the 7. Right? Why don't parents seek services? I'm afraid my kids will be what? Stigmatized. And I don't want adults stigmatizing my child. I don't want them labeled, so therefore I will not seek services. Okay. 2016, National Survey of Children's Health. At least 1 trauma. Here's the percentage. Black children, 61%. At least 1. Hispanic, 51%. White, 40%. Asian, 23%. So once again, I always encourage you to kind of think about the communities that I'm working in and the kids that I'm working with. Here it is, the ACE, Adverse Children Experience. They listed the top 7 traumas. And here's what I like you to do. Whenever I bring up a trauma, I want you to stand if you say, you know what, most of my kids may have experienced this or have experienced this. First one, number 1, economic hardship. If the majority of kids experience economic hardship, right, that's the number 1 trauma in underserved communities. Okay, great, have a seat. 2, parent divorce and separation. Okay, great, have a seat. I'm sure some of y'all said, I might as well just remain standing. Okay. 3, parental incarceration. 4, victim or witness of neighborhood violence. 5, living with a mentally ill adult. 6, living with someone who has what? A substance abuse problem. 7, a parental death. These are the top 7 traumas. So once again, we're saying that it's important to recognize that these are the kids that we're working with. They experience these traumas. Yes.
Thank you for doing that.
Okay.
That was amazing to see. I think it points to how important the kids is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in Trauma Informed, one of the things they're saying is that for adults, we need to ask a different question. Because I'll be honest, there's times where I've had a tough day, and we'll talk about having a transition ritual, and I'm working with my kids, and maybe a kid is misbehaving, and I've said it to myself, man, what's wrong with that kid? Any of you said that before? I'm alone. That's okay. I'm standing up here all by myself. They said we need to ask a different question. What happened to that kid? What happened to that child in order for that child to be behaving this way? Why? Because there's always a reason for behavior. And once again, doctors are saying that when you're working with kids, especially this generation, just assume that they experience trauma. That way you'll ask this question. It allows me to have much more compassion for that child. And so what is compassion? I always say we all have the ability to feel compassion, right? But you don't fully experience compassion until you act. Say it again. We all have the ability to feel compassionate, right? But we don't fully experience it until you act. Until what can I do to help this kid in that situation? Research suggests that the more a child experiences, the more likely they are to struggle later in life. Right? So once again, this is who we're coaching. This is who we're working with. Right? If a child has what? Just one, and here's the good news. If they have just one caring adult that they trust, right? Research shows that the relationship can cushion the effects of the trauma that these kids experience. Right? My question is today is, will you be that cushion for that child? What versus why? Right. Any of you familiar with Herb Edwards? He's on our PCA National Advisory Board. Right? He coached in the NFL for years. He was a sports broadcaster, and now he's gone back to coaching college football. Right? They asked him, what's the difference in coaching kids today than in the past? Right? He said, we used to be able to tell kids what? We just used to be able to tell kids what to do, and guess what they would do? They would do it. Right? He said, today, we need to be able to tell kids why. I want you to think about that for a moment. They say, hey, little Joe, go run to the wall and back. Then I just do it. Right. Today, you tell a kid, go run to the wall and back. No, they say, why should I do that? Or why, what? Do I have to do that? Right. Here's what I want you to think about. Right? I'll give you a couple minutes. I want you to see if you can come up with a couple reasons. Why do you think we need to tell kids why? See if you can come up with a couple reasons. You can pair up too. You can pair up too. Okay. So, why do we need to tell kids why? Let me get an idea. What you come up with?
For them to understand why they're doing it, because sometimes kids are like, well, why do I have to write? Why do I have to practice writing the alphabet? And I was like, and you tell them, oh, so you guys can learn more instead of just watching us like teach you. You guys are writing yourself, so you guys are learning more. You guys are practicing your writing skills.
Okay, great. And one thing I think about is this, right? I grew up in a generation where you couldn't ask adults why. Right. That goes against everything that I was. Here's what I normally would get. Because I said so, that's why. Now I'll be honest. My parents had some good parents. My parents never hit me once, right? But I saw them hit my brothers. Well, sometimes they would, right, misbehave, and I would, okay, all right, oh, he said, why? He got knocked in the mouth. Anyone else? Yes.
We need to tell kids why, because they want to know.
Okay. Because they simply want to know, right? And I was a very curious kid, right? And so I just wanted to know, right? Because I was curious. Anyone else?
Myself, I live this with the kids, and I've also done it in the past, but I coach children soccer schools.
Okay.
And what it is, sometimes we have to run laps, they have to run, right? So you run with them.
Okay.
However, if you tell them to run, they don't want to run.
Okay.
If you give them a soccer ball to run with the soccer ball, that's their purpose. Now they want to touch the ball.
Okay.
So they're doing it without thinking.
Excellent, great. And coach, we call that double duty, right? Conditioning along with developing a skill, right? So I'm glad you brought that up. Yes.
We were also saying that it could aid in communication skills, because if you are telling your kids and describing why in like a calm and clear manner, then the kids will internalize it and be like, oh, there's an adult, they're able to speak effectively and communicate with me and tell me why, and they're like, okay, so that's how you're supposed to speak.
Okay, excellent, right? And help them develop their social skills. Great.
I think it's also a way to get them to buy into what you're trying to have them do.
Okay.
So I need you to write because this is going to help you in X, Y, and Z, or I need you to run because it's going to help you in this way. And so then that gets them to later on, they can do it themselves because they go,
well, if I do this, then this is what I get out of it.
Okay, great, thank you. Right. Give them more information. Anyone else? I think I saw you here.
They kind of mentioned the same things I was saying.
Oh, okay.
To give them like intrinsic motivation, because if you tell them to do it, it's like, it's the point. But like, I just said, you know, if they're a soccer player, you tell them to run, it's like, well, you're gonna get better at running, and you're gonna be a better soccer player.
Okay. Right, connecting the dots.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times like kids want to feel in control.
Okay.
And so if they don't understand the why, there's this feeling of it's a little bit out of control, and so I'm just not going to do it.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up. Here's what I tell parents all the time. You're in charge of your children, but you cannot control them. You mean I was giving a kid that I'm in charge of, that I can't control? Absolutely. Anyone else before we move on? Yes.
There's one other thing, it kind of builds trust. It's like if they know that you have their best interest at heart, like she kind of said, it was like they buy into it more. It's like, oh, you're, thanks. You know, they might not get that trust from other adults in their life.
Excellent, right? And that's my question, right? The kids we work with. Right? Think about some of the adults and the adults in their lives.
Yeah. I was just about to add on, like, it fosters positive relationships with adults, because you never know what their home life is like. And then to have someone that they can go to that's an adult, because kids need to be able to trust adults. And it promotes healthy relationships, so that way they can see, well, this is how other people talk. You never know what their home life is like.
And so once again, here's the takeaway. We're working with a generation of kids who have been let down by adults. And guess what they say? I don't trust you. Why should I do what you asked me to do? I've had other adults that told me they were going to do something and didn't do it. That's why I'm asking why. I work for a foster care agency where I teach parenting classes. Right? When I was a kid, you know what they told us? Don't talk to strangers. Right? You know what they tell foster kids? Go live with them. And what do you think about that? I was a kid, they say don't talk. We tell them to go live with them. And so once again, we're going to talk about why it's so important to build a relationship with children so you can instruct them. In other words, I always say this way, right? You have to earn the right to teach people. Just because you show up with your badge and uniform doesn't mean that the kids don't follow directions. You have to earn that right. And so we're going to talk about how do you earn that right. Temperament, modified. Building character. How do you make up your character? Your character is made up by your temperaments modified by 6 things. Okay? First of all, basic attitude. Basic attitude. What do you mean? An event happens, we interpret it in our mind, and that affects how we feel, and then that affects how we behave. In essence, that becomes our attitude. I wish I had time to think. Anyone ever heard of thought switching? Anyone ever heard of thought switching? Let me give an example. Okay. You told a child. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I thought you were asking.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I do painting and everything, and the thing is, I'm very critical of myself, and my boyfriend saw how very negative I was towards myself when it came to an outcome, and he's like, I know, like, you don't see that it's not where you want it to be. He's like, but be happy with the progress that you did get to. Okay. And then when he told me that, I was like, oh, okay, like, that makes sense, because the thing is, I grew up with very negative adults that would point out very negative things, and I would, even though I'm not with those adults anymore, I carried it with me.
Okay.
And that's why I try to go to other people that, instead of being negative, they always see everything positive. And the thing is, it was weird to me, because when I was growing up, when kids would be very positive, even though I wouldn't say anything, I was like, is that how you're supposed to be as a kid?
Okay, right. Thanks, Sharon, right? You want to coach you? Let me give you an example. Right. After school program. Right. Homework time. Right. Tell the kid, have a seat, get started on your homework. Right. Leave out for a minute. You come back, and that kid's not there. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not so angry to 10 being angry, how angry are you? Say what? You worried? Okay. Okay, worried?
Yeah, I get worried.
Okay.
Anger's not the first thing that pops in my head, it's more like, where did he go?
Okay, okay. All right. Now watch this. Watch this. 'Cause here's what happens with, oftentimes. Because right, we want parents want kids to what? Right. Comply. Right. Kids out there outside playing. Okay. Normally getting angry. You're supposed to be in there. I told you. Right. Okay. Here's what I can do. I want you to come up with 3 negative reasons. Right? 3 negative thoughts. Right? Like, I told you, right? Sit down. You come up with 2 more. See, you come up, I give you that one. I told you to sit down and do your work. Right? See, you come up with 2. Write them down. Right? What are 2 negative thoughts that you might have? 2 negative thoughts that come to mind. Okay, I heard here, you never listen. All right, so give me a couple. I heard it. A couple here. Give me a couple.
It's always you.
Say again.
It's always you.
It's always you. Say again. Okay, you don't listen. What's wrong with you? Anyone? Give me another one. How many times do I have to tell you? All right. Now, give me 3 positives or neutrals.
What were you doing out there? Just ask them.
How can I
Now,
help?
I want your thoughts. 3 positive or neutral. Okay, number 1, here's a positive. You don't have homework. What's another one?
It was finished.
He's finished with his homework. All right. Here's what we simply said. Those are called automatic thoughts. Our automatic thoughts are normally neutral or negative. Because there's no evidence to say that that kid was being disobedient. We don't know that until we get the facts. So I'm simply saying that in studies, they're able to measure, based on thought switching, how many parents will abuse their children based on their automatic negative thoughts. So one of the things we teach them in parenting classes is to what? Engage in thought switching. Because you don't have any evidence. Right? So once again, attitude. Second, beliefs. Right? That's what gives us the moral compass. So we're simply saying that our character is our temperament modified by these 6 things. 3, childhood training. I always say we have no control over that. 4, education. 5, motivations. And then 6, principles. Do you live your life by a set of principles? So, character is your temperament modified by these 6 things. And that's what makes up your character. Right? One of the things we talk about in Positive Coaching Alliance is this idea of a double goal coach. Because one of the things I think is important is to look at our values and what we are instilling in young people that will help to shape their character. Right? We talk about this idea of a double goal coach. But one of the things we say is that the first goal of a double goal coach is to teach kids to be competitive. In fact, it says strive to win. But that word, competition, is a Latin word which means to strive with. So we always want to teach kids to be competitive. Right? We're not anti-competitive. The second goal is teaching life lessons, which we believe is more important. And so one of the things I think about is this. That's an opportunity where we can instill values in kids. So one of the things I'm encouraging you to do is take a minute and I want you to think about what are 4 values that you want to instill in the kids that you work with. I don't know what your values are. Work ethic, discipline, commitment. See if you come up with 4. Think about the age group that you're working with. What values do you want to instill in that 6-year-old boy or that 7-year-old girl? See if you come up with 4. Hey, until we come back. So we said, what values do you want to instill in young people? There is a legendary coach, right? Coach at UCLA, his name is John Wooden, right? Most successful coach in college sports. All right. One of the things he said is this. He said, what we teach is important, but what we emphasize sticks with kids. What do you think about that going on? What we teach is important, but what we emphasize sticks with children. Normally what we emphasize are what? Our values. Right. So let me get an idea. Give me a value. Share the age group first.
So I'm from Kid Valiant, and we are from TK to 7.
Okay.
And so our values, we have 5.
Okay.
So the values that we have is curiosity, love, justice, courage, and growth.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you. Yes.
One is trust, and work with 5th through 8th.
Okay. Trust. Good.
I work with kinder and it's growth because you want kids to know that just because you're stuck in a hard place right now doesn't mean you're gonna stay there forever. You're gonna always move.
Excellent. Like that. Growth. Anyone else? Anything different?
Work with kinder to 3rd.
Okay.
So be respectful, be safe, be responsible, be a problem solver.
Okay. Respectful, safe, problem solver.
I wrote on mine, honesty, integrity, positivity, and community. I feel like community is like the most important one.
Okay.
Because, like we were saying earlier, like it takes a lot of positive influences in kids' lives, and if they start seeing they could be a positive influence, it really changes their agency.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything different? What is integrity?
What I define to my kindergartners is integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's looking.
Okay. Okay. Great. Anyone else? That was a point card. I saw hands. Right. Here it is. Ready? Honesty and consistency of your values, principles, and or beliefs. Honesty and consistency of your principles, values, and or beliefs. We just asked you to write down what? 4 what? Values. Here's what we simply saying. If we don't model those values, then we're not walking in integrity. I used to have a coach say, hey, you guys need to get here on time to practice. We start at this time. There were days where, as kids, we showed up, guess what we were waiting on? So we're saying that whatever value that you wrote down, if you do not model it, then you're not walking in integrity. Clinical psychologist Dr. David, he said, there's a law. He said, every behavior model will be repeated. Your children are watching you. In fact, kids get to a certain age, right? And I learned this with my son, where they start listening and they start doing more what? Watching. Let me look for them to be incongruent. Then I get to get away with some stuff. So we're simply saying that we got to make sure that we're modeling our values so we can be what? Walking in integrity, right? Promoting resilience. Right? Because of time, I'm just going to go through these scenarios. I want you to pick these scenarios. Pick one out of these 5. And I want you to answer the question, what would you do to promote resilience? Okay. In fact, go ahead and turn to promoting resilience. how to promote resilience? We got to model self-regulation skills. We'll talk about what that means, right? Someone go ahead and read, starting with accept. Anyone? Nice and loud.
Accept different emotions, ups and downs are normal.
Okay, keep going.
Share your own feelings, reason why and how you are coping. Help children put a name to their feelings. Reward appropriate expressions of feelings. Encourage optimism. Encourage contentment, being appreciative and thankful for what they have.
Okay, great. That's how you promote resilience. Right. Pick one of these scenarios, and I want you to write down what would you do to promote resilience. What would that conversation sound like with that kid? I'll give you a couple minutes. Just pick one. Okay, once you're done, turn to your neighbor, exchange. Go. Tell them which one you picked, and what would that conversation sound like. All right, 30 seconds, we'll come back. Okay, who can start us off? Someone share with me which scenario you selected, and how does that conversation sound? Who can start us off? Which one did you select?
I went with the first one.
Okay.
So I would just, first of all, I would isolate the student, so I would put them on the spot and just congratulate them for finishing, period. It doesn't matter you finish first or last. The important thing is that you worked hard enough to complete your task. And then, everybody has different levels of working, so just keep working at it and you'll see improvements.
Great, thank you. Right. And I like the idea about, I always think children are more receptive in private. Right? So there's times where we want to address them privately. Right? Anyone else?
I chose the third one.
Okay.
The parents separating. And basically it was saying to the kid, that's such sad news, but I've seen how strong you are persisting through adversity on the court, and I know you can do the same thing off the court.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Yes.
I also thought about that one as well, and I also thought about encouraging contentment, so being appreciative of the friend group that is around that student at that time, and having other adults around that they can talk to about that as well.
Okay, great. And once again, I think the key teachable moment is oftentimes when we think of skill development, right, especially when it comes to academics, we talk about math and writing and reading, this is the most important skill you can teach kids, right, is to be resilient, especially working with kids in underserved communities. Right? So we encourage you to use that as opportunities, as teachable moments to really promote resiliency in kids' lives. Preparing for practice. Right? Notice the quote there. Right? Coach K, Duke University. Right? He says, how do you know when it's time to get out of teaching, when it's time to get out of coaching? Right? How do you know? He said, when you've lost the desire to prepare. That's when you know. When you've lost that desire to prepare, to make sure kids have some structure. Children love structure. When kids don't know what's going to happen, it creates anxiety. So one of the things we always say is that part of preparation, we're going to talk about it, is making sure that you have a practice plan. And posting it up so the kids can see it when they arrive. And they know exactly what's going to happen. Right? Encourage you to think about it. Recognize your importance. Where are you coming from before you show up to the after-school program? Right? Ever had a bad day? So one of the things we encourage you to do, right, is to be mentally prepared. Do you have a transition ritual? So where you can transition from maybe the previous activity to being present and engage with the kids. Right? What do you project with your body and voice? In other words, you are the catalyst. What does the catalyst do? They initiate a reaction. Right? If you show up and you're dragging, oh, got to deal with these kids again today, right? You're going to be in for a long day. Right? So we're saying that I encourage you to think about, right, what can I do to transition so I can be present and engaged with the children today. Okay? Opening ritual. Right? When do your children know when the activity starts that day? Right? One of the things we say is that it's important to create a fun, exciting opening ritual where the children know that things start when? Right now. Fit kid of the day. What is that? One of the things we talk about at Positive Coach Alliance is that there's times where there may be certain kids that get a lot of attention, right? And most kids who misbehave get a lot of attention, right? There's some kids that are what? Following directions, right? That sometimes they don't even get attention, right? So one of the things we're saying is that a kid of the day simply means, you know what? Today I'm going to make sure that I focus on these 3 kids. And I may, inquire about something that has nothing to do with our activity. Tomorrow, these 3. Tomorrow, these 3. That way, each and every kid gets some attention from their coach or instructor. Right? Communication. When it comes to instructions, a couple things to be mindful of. We said what? Coaching is about communicating. Right? Pose problem versus telling. In other words, if you had to do that all over again, what would you do differently? Instead of what? You should have did this, we worked on that, we worked on this, you should have did this. Right? Get kids to think. Create an extension of you. Act rather than tell. Once again, the idea is to get kids to think. Instead of telling them what to do, ask a question. Right? Telling creates codependency. Right? In other words, if we continue to always tell kids what to do, then they'll always look for us for the answers. Right? And when they're by themselves, right, they think they can't do anything. Correction sandwich. Any of you ever heard of correction sandwich? Okay, all right. Do we have responsibility to correct children? Yes. Yes, we do. But when we do it over and over and over and over again, it starts to drain their emotional tank. So one of the things we talk about is this idea of a sandwich. The bread, right? Those are the positives. The correction, the meat's in the middle. Right? So I share what? A positive, and then I correct the kid, and then I end with something positive. Right? I'll give you 30 seconds. You ready? No, I'll give you 15 seconds. Anywhere on your sheet, you got 15 seconds. Draw a rabbit. Go. Draw a rabbit. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, time. Put your pen down. Right. So we said correction sandwich. True but specific. Something positive. One thing they need to correct, and end with something positive. Pair with the person next to you and give each other a rabbit correction sandwich. Ready to go. All right. All right. So once again, we're saying, anytime we say something positive, the kid is open to what? Right? To some feedback. But we want to be what? Truthful and specific. And also I always say, use next time instead of but. You did a good job this, but it devalues what came before. So, you know, nice, long, fluffy, what? Rabbit ears. Next time you might want to, focus a little bit more on the tail. Okay? And then what? Great job with the whiskers. So notice we said what? Next time. Okay? Skill drills. Keep everyone engaged. That word engaged means what? I need to attract and hold their attention. Right? When kids are just standing around, they say what? It's what? Boring. And most misbehavior take place, right? Because kids are not active. So we want to make sure what? They're engaged. Right? Reps, quantity and quality. I know there's times where we're teaching kids skills and they're getting what? Hundreds of reps. But they're doing it wrong. So you got to make sure they start off what? Right? Quality, and then what? Quantity. Just right challenge. In other words, right? Children need to what? They need to be able to compete. And oftentimes, we can do it versus what? Their opponent, the clock, or their own standards. Skill drills. Once again, reward what? Unsuccessful effort. If a kid gives 100% and you notice that, even though they don't get their outcome, you want to reward that effort. Right? Because it reinforces the effort. Right? Stretch goals. Right? That's why it's so important to know your kids. Right? A stretch goal is a goal that you set to where a kid can only attain it if they're working hard. If you set a goal where a kid knows that they can't reach it, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to quit. And then if we set a goal that they don't have to work hard to attain, then they won't grow and develop and get better. Conditioning. Is it age appropriate? Are the kids having fun? And the gentleman mentioned back there, double duty. Kids need to know that in sports, regardless of what sport, conditioning is just a part of it. We just got to make sure they're having fun. Motivating kids. One of the things we talk about in Positive Coaching Alliance is this idea of filling an emotional tank. Right? Praise works best when you have a relationship. I want you to think about that for a moment. I know a lot of people that I'm in this field and I praise kids, right? But I encourage you to kind of think about that. It's more effective when you have a relationship with the child. Implement the 2-minute drill. If you find that the day is dragging, right, maybe you say, hey, for the next 2 minutes, right, and you can run a quick drill and bring everybody back together. Buddy system. Pairing kids up and making sure they understand, hey, your responsibility is to encourage her today. Your responsibility is to encourage him today. Right? Get them to pair up and work as teams, motivating one another. Okay. Reward what you want. We said earlier, children do what gets rewarded. Right? You can use stamps, stickers. Right? Fit Kids Champions. I ran a program where kids earn a certain amount of points Monday through Thursday, and we tally up the point, and on Friday, right, they were awarded based on the level that they were earning. Right? So I had the gold level, the silver level, the bronze level. So once again, that gives an idea of how we can motivate our kids. If you have opening ritual, it's going to have what? Right? So when did the day officially end? That's an opportunity to what? Ask a life lesson question. Right? Or it's an opportunity to what? Make sure kids finish up the day and be prepared for the next day. But once again, what? It must be fun. It signifies that the day what? The day is ending. What are you assessing when the day is over? Give me an idea. What are you assessing? Give me an idea. What are you assessing?
If they enjoyed.
Okay.
If they enjoyed what you did or not.
Okay. Did the kids have fun? What else?
Are they growing?
Are they growing?
They participate.
Did they participate? Anything else?
Communication, maybe?
Say again?
Communication.
Okay. How did I communicate to the kids today? Did I get frustrated with any kids? Right. What was my tolerance level? Right. Also, wait a minute. Did a kid get hurt? Right. Do I need to contact a parent? Right. So we encourage you to what? Right. Think about your assessment. Did we meet our objectives? Right. With the kids today? Culture. The way we do things here. Culture is powerful. Everywhere you go, there's a what? Culture for the way things are done. Right? So you'll have your own culture. When it comes to culture, it's important to establish some clear agreements. In other words, why do I call them agreements? Because children buy into what they help create. Right? Some people call them rules. Right? But the most important thing is to get them to buy into it. I always say in leadership, if you're not selling, you're not leading. So I want to make sure I have what? A small number of agreements. They should be fair, easy to follow for the kids. They should be enforceable. And most importantly, they should tell children what to do versus what not to do. Right. I'm curious, can we agree that everyone give 100% today?
Yes.
Right. So once again, I encourage you to kind of think about that. Right? Because that question allows you an opportunity to kind of take a look in the mirror and do some self-evaluation. Right? My name is Coach Cummins. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys.
In the past year, as I've met with everyone individually, what I kept hearing was, first, I need more skills on how to coach and how to like really work with kids in physical activity. So that was PCA. They did that stuff. The second thing is, I'd love to talk with other partners about how they do this. So Anthony Bates, he came up all the way from LA. He has been a partner of Fit Kids for the past 3 years. So he works at an elementary school down there. It's a KIPP school. He is a wonderful partner. He's always responsive with photos and stories and quotes. He knows how to do it. I've watched his class. He does a great job. So hopefully you guys can learn a little bit from him. Yeah, I'll let you take it from here.
All right, great. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I gotta set my time. I'm a storyteller, so if I don't set time, we're gonna be here all day. So there's my time. Oh, this is a great tool. Okay, this is a small one. You can get this from Lakeshore Learning Supplies. They make a bigger one. I like this because it counts down and then kids can actually see the red disappearing. Anyway, that's my little tool. All right, my name is Anthony Bates. I teach at KIPP Ignite down in Los Angeles. I've been teaching 14 years now. I've been in a classroom for most of those years. And so just recently I've gotten out of the classroom, but I still wanted to teach. I still wanted to work with kids. And so I've found a good position that opened up. Part PE, part reading. That's now morphed into all PE. But I'm excited. I'm glad to be here. You can hit an arrow. I went to the University of Missouri. I got my bachelor's in early education, elementary ed, and early childhood. I'm a husband, father of a 10 and 11-year-old. So that's its own story. But they're great. And so, keep moving. Growing up, there was this one elderly lady in my church. We shared the same birthday. And one day she was like, so what's the secret to keep going, seek a long life or something? She's asking me, right? And I'm like, I don't know, keep moving. And she just cracked up, and she thought that was funny. And so that's kind of been my like motto, right? So we're going to talk about how some of these like strategies can really help with your students in the classroom, in the yard. I don't know if does anybody have to do this inside a classroom? Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, one? I got you. So all these can be modified to be in the classroom. So that's kind of my motto. Today's goal is we're going to identify like 6 key components of Quality Fit Kids class, how to use data to drive those Fit Kids management practices. I'm really big on data. I don't want to come to the end of the year and just say, oh, I think they did better. I think they enjoyed it. I don't know. I have a really bad memory too. So I use data to really say, okay, this student improved in this, and this is how much growth they had. This student didn't like the class at the beginning of the year. I gave them an opinion survey, and now they love the class. So I'm big into data, so we're going to talk about that as well. Also, I like to move around, so I might actually be over here. You might see how that ties in later with some management practices. So, introduction done. I like to move along, keep moving, right? I'm gonna do a little lesson. It's gonna be a little magic trick because I'm gonna fit my entire 40-minute PE class in about 10 minutes, hopefully. And we're going to talk about planning, executing practices, and hopefully at the end you guys will get some time to just think through some procedures, something you can actually take away from this afternoon. Alright, so here's my data. Now I kind of part of me was like, I probably should just show the good data, right? Like, I don't want them to see that 149%. But I decided to put it up there because we don't always see the results we want, right? We want them to grow in all this, but we don't always see that. So for last year I taught kinder through second. I'm in a founding school, so we keep adding a grade level every year up to 4th grade. So this is my data from last year. My second graders, also I had to come up with a system, data system, right? Like, what am I actually gonna hold the students accountable for, right? Because I didn't really want it, like standards-based, like, yes, we want to follow standards. I didn't really want it performance-based, because, some students are just naturally more athletic than others. So I'm like, okay, what is a common factor that I can think through that can be as consistent as possible through many of what I'm testing? So I decided to, on the Fit Kids assessments, I decided to use those, and I really stress growth in my students. Like, I don't care if you do the 40-yard dash in 25 minutes, right? The next time, I want to see you do that 40-yard dash in 24 minutes and 30 seconds. Did you improve? Yes. Hey, let's celebrate, right? Let's celebrate that growth. So, my second graders, 92% of them improved on 3 out of 5 tests from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. I also created a PE opinion survey that I can try to share at the end that I created. It was just a quick survey. Again, remember I'm like kinder through second. So I was like, my survey has to be pretty simple. It's kindergartners, right? So I came up with some smiley faces. One was crying. One was all happy. So I just asked them, do you love PE? Do you like PE? PE's okay. You don't like PE, right? And then I kind of added some questions later in the year to get some more data, just collecting information. Because I want our scholars, we call them scholars, we want our kids to enjoy our fitness, right? We don't want them, I'm here again, I gotta do, okay, I'm doing my knees, right? We want them to have fun, because we want these habits to not just help them this year, we want them to help them next year, when they're in high school, when they're in college, when they're on their own being an adult with all the other stresses, right? So 73% of them scored, it was out of 4, so scored a 3 or 4 on the survey. My first graders didn't do so hot. According to the numbers, in my opinion, I definitely want that a lot higher. 49% improved, but 79% scored on 3 or 4. My kindergartners, this is first year, last year was the first year that I actually was doing the assessments with kindergartners. So I was like, I don't even know if they can do them, right? So my goal last year was, are they even able to perform the test, properly? Can they? And obviously, we figured out, yes, they're able to perform the test. So this year, obviously, that is not going to be my goal for the kindergartners, right? We reach a goal, and then we want to set a higher goal, don't we? And so they're going to have the same goal as the other grades. So I'm going to be looking on the 3 out of 5 tests. Actually, this year will be 3 out of 4 tests because I had that beginning picture. Did you see all that space, right? I don't have that anymore. We changed school sites, so now I have about as much space as up front. That's about it. So we don't have 40 yards. Okay, well, this program is flexible, right? We don't have it, okay, I'll just work with 4 assessments. And then also keeping this data, I'm looking for trends throughout the years, right? Because it might be developmentally, maybe there's something going on in general in first grade. The students are just, maybe their muscles are not growing as fast, their bones are not growing, I don't know, right? So maybe there is a reason or a purpose of why the first grade is a little lower, okay? You can go on to the next one. So why do we use data? The kids get excited when they see their own growth, right? We talked about internalizing earlier, okay? When we internalize, we make it our own. We're more invested, okay? Same thing with our students. My students do all the time. Coach Bates, did I beat my record? Right? Because I call it personal record, personal best. Did I beat my record? Yes, you did. Yay! Right? It might have been just barely. It might have been 1/100th of a second faster on the agility test. But we want to celebrate that, right? Because the more successful they feel, the higher goals they want to set for themselves, and the more success they're going to actually see. Use data so you can actually track the scholar progress. You can see them go from kinder to first to second to third to fourth to fifth, right? You can see that concrete growth, and you can see ways to, okay, this one student, man, they're getting it every year. How can I differentiate it? How can I change it to challenge them more, right? Every one of our kids needs to be pushed, needs to be challenged. Now that's going to look different, right, from one student to the next. One might just be working on skipping. Another one already does that because they play maybe soccer and they can already do that, right? So we're always looking how can we differentiate, how can we move these students along and push them, right? A lot of my students describe my coaching style as well, some say pushy, but just challenging, right? I'm always looking to encourage them, but to push them, right? I don't want them to be comfortable. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Am I doing that time? Okay. All right, I'm gonna do a quick lesson up here, like I said, the magic trick. I'm gonna go through it really fast, but what I want you to be thinking about is think about the critical components that we've already talked about, and think about these 2 questions in particular. What has been pre-taught, okay, and how is the class flowing? And then one last question that I didn't get up there is, oh wait, I just lost it, sorry. What's been pre-taught, how's the class flowing? Oh, and like what planning needed to happen before all this happened, right? Because I can't show you all that. We'll be here for years. All right, so I need 4 brave souls, those are volunteers, you're gonna actually come up here, and I'm going to do a quick run through of my day. So I need 4 brave souls. We're just gonna get warmed up real quick, okay? So when I say go, you're gonna do high knees, okay? If you need to walk it, you can walk it, okay? If you're good at that, go ahead and jog it. You're gonna do it down to the green cone, and then you're gonna stop, turn around, okay? So when I say go, that's when you're gonna go. And the people in the back, you're not gonna go yet. Don't go yet, okay? So when I say go, you're just gonna take a step forward. All right, are we all ready? Oh, last thing. If I need your attention, I'm going to say hooray, and you're going to say hurrah. Got it? So let's practice. Hooray!
Hurrah!
Everybody, let's practice. Hooray! Hurrah! I have your attention now. Excellent. Excellent. All right, so are we ready?
Yes.
Oh, we're still live. All right, ready? Go. High knees, remember. High knees. Ready? Go. Come on, high knees. Get them up. Good. Good. Excellent. Excellent. Turn around. All right, now we're going to do butt kickers. Okay, remember butt kickers, you're just trying to kick your butt. My students love this one. You guys love it. Laugh, go ahead, laugh, because it's funny, especially in kindergarten, right? All right, again, when I say go, if there's any equipment in your way, go over it or around it, okay? Over it or around it. All right, ready, go. Butt kickers, try to go all the way up. Very good, excellent, excellent. Ready, go. Good, great job, great, nice one. Speedy, ooh, I like that. All right, so, and let's do one more set of warm-up. Now we're going to do frog jump, so you're just going to squat and jump forward, okay? Again, if you get tired, just walk a couple steps, that's fine, okay? Ready, go. Excellent. Ready, go. Come on, oh, good. Try to have your arms out in front of you for balance. Arms out in front for balance. Excellent. And this last one, we're just going to jog back. Go. Ready, go. We're just going to jog back. All right, excellent. Now, you're going to have 10 seconds. So come on over here so we can explain our lesson today, okay? 10, 9, 8, thank you, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent, we're all here. Great. All right, today we're going to focus on balance, okay? We're going to use our core muscles to help us balance, all right? And so we're going to start right here at these cones. Right here at this cone. All right, so when you get to the dots, these are dots. What are these?
Dots.
Dots, excellent. Once you get to dot, you're just going to jump from one dot to the next. You can pretend like it's like logs on a river or something, okay? And then you're going to jog over to the medicine ball. So what are you guys going to do here?
Jump on the dots.
How are we going to jump?
With both feet together.
2 feet together. Very good. See, you were paying attention. Yes. All right. Okay. So you can jump 2 feet. When you get over to our medicine balls, what are these?
Medicine ball.
Medicine ball. You're gonna do that squat, that frog jump, but you're gonna squat, pick it up over your head, and you're gonna slam it down as hard as you can. Okay. Just do it once. You just slam it once, and then you're gonna come over here and then 1 foot in each square. 1 foot in each square, okay? All right. Now remember you, I know you're good at this, you're gonna do 2 feet in each square, okay? I get it. See? I know. You're good. All right, so why don't you guys come on over here and go ahead and get lined up. All right, hooray.
Hurrah.
You guys are so quiet. Usually you guys are like, oh, talking. I love it, I love it. All right, so hooray.
Hurrah!
Ah, there it is. All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
All right, go. Don't forget 2 feet. Good. Excellent. Excellent. Go. All right. Everybody stop. Hurry.
Hurrah!
All right. Eyes on me. Excellent. I forgot one thing. When the person in front of you gets off the dots, the next person can just go. Right? Right? Because I want to be helping people, so I don't want you waiting around for me, okay? So as soon as the next person gets off the dots, then you're going to go, okay? All right, ready, go. Continue. Good, 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 good. What's your name again? Jennifer. Jennifer, I loved how you did 1 foot in each, okay? Next time, why don't you just try to do high knees through it? Oh, okay, high knees through it. Go ahead, go back around. Good. Don't forget to put the ball back. We gotta put the ball back for the next guy. All right, excellent. All right, good, excellent. 1 more minute, 1 more minute. Good work. We're gonna get our water break in a minute. All right. Let's see those 2 feet. Let's see, come on, hustle. You can do it. Come on. All right, 2 feet. Come on, two. Pump it. Yes, you did it. All right, and everybody go ahead and stop. Hooray. Hurrah. Hooray. Hurrah. Eyes on me. Good. You have 10 seconds to come on over here and get your water. Go ahead. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Now you guys have 10 seconds to come on, and we're going to get in our stretching circle, right? So everybody come on, go ahead. 10, 9, 8, 7. Go ahead, spread out. Can you spread out? 7, 6. Everybody knows? 3, 2, 1, and we're here. Great. All right. Churning, you did amazing today. How did it make you feel?
Good.
Good. Okay, excellent. You know what? Churney is our fit kid of the day today. Give it up, Churney. Give it up. Churney, I'm going to have you come and lead the stretches for us, okay? You can do it. Come on. So come on in the middle. Yep, come right on in the middle. Okay. All right. Now, why don't you go ahead and do straight arm reach first. So, and don't forget to say, ready to begin.
Oh.
And then you're going to start counting, right? We're going to count by, let's count by tens today. So we're going to count by tens to 100 and then stop, okay?
So ready, set, begin.
10,
20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,
just turn your volume down just a little bit.
100.
We don't want to be yelling our stretch numbers. Okay. All right. Thank you. And let's do straight arm bar. Okay.
So ready, set, begin. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100.
Good. And last one. Go ahead. The other arm.
So ready, set, begin. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100.
Good. Who can tell me, how did we use our balance today? Think of our obstacle course. How did we use our balance today?
The dots.
Tell me more.
So you have to keep your core tight so you're not falling over, and you have to balance yourself when you get on the dot.
Good. Excellent. Anybody else? Good. Great. Anybody else?
When we're going through the agility ladder as well, making sure we're trying to stay on a straight pattern so we're not falling off the
Straight
side.
line, right? We get too crazy, we're going to bump into people, and that's not safe, is it? Okay? All right. Great job. Why don't you go ahead and get lined up right here, and then we'll head back to class. All right. Great. Go ahead. There's your teacher. Have a wonderful day. Excellent. Excellent. Good job. Good round of applause. Good round of applause. Fastest class ever in our history. No. All right. So, go ahead to the next slide, I believe. All right. So, here's what I would like you to do. Think first. Okay. What did you see? Okay. What did you observe? You're going to think about it. Then you're going to pair up with an elbow partner. Somebody close to your elbow. Right? And then you're going to share with that elbow buddy. And I have a little 2-minute countdown for you. So think quickly. So if you want to hit play. And yeah, that's it. Hooray! Hooray! Oh. Hooray! Hurrah! All right, remember when I say hooray, you say hurrah. That means you say it, and then you close your mouth, eyes around me, and then I know we're ready to go. Excellent. All right, so what'd you guys see? What'd you guys see? Who's like throw out some things? Yes.
The equipment was out before the kids were there.
Excellent. The equipment was out before the kids showed up. Now, real side note on that. That's ideal, right? That doesn't always happen. Last year, I would have a like a kindergarten class, and then I would have first grade class right afterwards. And I did different things with the two different groups. So for me, that wasn't possible. But it does help a lot, doesn't it? Right? Because you're not spending time setting things out, and the students are like waiting around. When can we do this? It looks so amazing. I can't control my excitement, right? If that does happen, right, you all get that one or two students in your mind that you know that they're always talking, or they're always moving around, or they're always like running halfway across the yard. Okay? Think of those students. Can those students help you set it out while you're explaining things? Right? Okay? One thing I would do is invest in a lot of chalk. If you guys are on blacktop, who's on blacktop and concrete? Okay? Who's on grass? Oh, I love you guys. I wish all of us would be on grass. So, if you're on blacktop and concrete, chalk. Make a circle. Here's where the dot goes. So if you have a student helping, they just match it up, right? Match it up. If you're on grass, maybe put a little cone or something. Maybe a little sign. This is where the dots go. Okay, so that they're familiar. Give them that map, right? We have the maps in here of our obstacle course, so give them that. All right, what else? Good. Thank you. That was awesome. Yeah.
I really liked how you redirected Jessica, because it was like you could see Jennifer. I'm always confused as a Jessica. I've been sitting next to her all day.
We all make
I like that you redirected Jennifer, because it was like, I saw it was something where like you could tell that there's those kids who are going to try and do minimal effort, and it's a positive way to get them to participate and be involved without like putting them on the spot or having to pull them aside.
Right. You, as much as you can, you want to do the corrections one-on-one, right? You don't want to put somebody on blast, right? Different students will react to that. Some will do it, but they're like, end up scared of you, right? I don't want to do the wrong thing. Some will just, no, I'm done. I'm not doing that. They'll shut down, right? So you always want to try to correct one-on-one. And then we talked about earlier, the sandwich, right? Tell them what they did, they're doing something right, give them that little correction, give them more positive, okay? Anything else? We'll do one more. Yeah.
You did a repetition, kept asking them what this was.
Lots of repetition. You got to keep them engaged, right? Because you have to explain these obstacle courses, don't you? You can't just like put it out and be like, okay, go, right? You have to explain them, especially the first time, especially at the beginning here. Because a lot of these, you're going to use the same equipment throughout the year, right? So I would expect my scholars to know how to do a medicine ball slam in February, right? Because we've done it probably 4 or 5 times before that. But next week, in 2 weeks, I can't expect them to know how to do a medicine ball slam. I have to teach that. So every component you have to teach. And then you have to observe. Do they get it? If they get it, okay. They just need reminders now. Do they not get it? Okay. I got to teach again. All right, good. Let's go on to the next one. See what we have. Just the arrow, I think. Yeah. All right. So, a lot of planning. Okay? This is just like any other subject. It takes a lot of planning. How are you going to have it set up? What are your transitions going to be? Okay, how are you going to get the kids' attention? Right? Lots of planning. Put in that effort. The effort that you put into the planning, you're going to get back and the students are engaged and you have less issues. Right? Less problems of students not wanting to do what you want them to do. Okay, go to the next one. You saw warm-ups. We warmed up first. Okay, if you notice, I attempted to keep them moving quickly. So I said go. Usually I use a whistle. I figured I'd spare your ears on the whistle in here. Usually I would use a whistle, but I kept them going. And just so you know, I'm not perfect, right? Every time you do a lesson, there's something you can improve on, okay? So what I found my first year doing this, doing the Fit Kids program, again, it was my first year, I'm just like, I have this curriculum, what do I do? Is I found out I was end up spending half the class in warm-ups. Why? Because I was like, Johnny, please keep your hands to yourself. Susie, please turn around, right? You get sucked into that, the eyes open to all the negative things, right? So, again, one thing I started using was my timer, right? I know warm-ups shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, and it should only take 5, probably. 10, we're done, I gotta move on, right? So that was one adjustment I made, keep them moving, right? And the more they move, hey, if they're not paying attention, and then all of a sudden there's no more students down here, oh, I better get down there, right? So a lot of that stuff you don't even need to say anything to them. They get it. They'll get it when they see everybody else is gone. Okay? Go ahead, next one. So you saw warm-ups, you saw our activity. Okay? I know our new seasons, there's the fitness part of it, there's a game, there's something else. After school program people, you said you had 4 hours. I wish I had that much time. My class is only 40 minutes long. So think of kindergartners, right? Especially at the beginning of the year. Am I going to get through the warm-up, the fitness thing, the activity, the game, the stretching, water breaks, restroom breaks? Am I going to get all that done, right? So we have to be a little flexible with ourselves too. It's okay if you don't get every component done every single day. You gotta figure out what is working and what works for you. So what I found in my short 40-minute class was I found that I was able to do warm-ups, one activity, stretching, and that was it. So because the warm-ups and the stretching are very important, right? If they're not warmed up, they're going to hurt themselves. If they don't stretch at the end, they're going to hurt themselves. Safety. So what worked for me was to choose that one activity. So I would go through one class, and it might take me a week to go through one class. Because I would do the warm-ups, one activity, the stretches. The next day, Tuesday, I do the warm-ups, the next activity in that same class, and stretches. So you have to be flexible, okay? Be realistic, okay? If you're finding you're just cramming things in and you're figure a different way out, okay? And stretching, again, stretching is important. Did you notice I had us stretching in a circle? What do you think the benefits of stretching in a circle would be as opposed to like you're standing here? Maybe one person's up here, I got rows of people, some people are looking at people's backs. What are the benefits of being in a circle? This is just my own personal thing. It's not necessarily a Fit Kids thing. But what are those benefits? Yeah?
You're like all equal in this circle.
You're all equal. Good. No? No? Yeah, I know you're stretching. That's okay.
You
Stretching.
can see, you can see everyone and keep an eye on make sure they're actually stretching.
Right. As the coach, as the instructor, you can see everybody. Right? It's not like, oh, I gotta move over here and see somebody there. No, everybody's in there. Okay? And then also, if you notice, my Fit Kid of the day, I have them lead the stretches. Right? And then they get a chance to be in that middle. Now, for some, that's great. They want to be there. For others, that's like the worst thing in the world. I don't want to be there, right? But this is part of the social development, right? We want to push them. That's why I gave, where'd she go? No? Yeah, there she is. That's why I gave her a lot of help in that, stretching. Because I know she hadn't done that before. She had not led the stretches before, right? Ideally, the more you do this, the more familiar the students are, you can just call out the stretch, they just do everything, right? But I gave her a little more scaffolding. I gave her a little more tips. I helped her out as we went, okay? Sorry, I gotta move fast. All right, and then data. While we were stretching, right, I was asking, how do we use balance? So you're getting that data. Are the students getting the objectives you're targeting that day? Okay. While warm-ups, I didn't point it out, but I was watching. Can a student do high knees? Are they just like going like this, right? Is it kind of an effort thing, or is it they're really struggling with the mechanics of I actually have to like bend my knee to get a high knee up, right? I get some students like trying to do this. Their legs are straight, like they don't understand the mechanics, right? So. Always observing that. You're always taking data. All right, let's move on. Procedures, procedures, procedures. Routines, routines, routines. Okay? This is like the backbone of good instruction. Okay? What's the difference between procedures and routines? Next slide. All right. So, procedure is a particular method for performing a task. I like to think of it as the how. How are you going to get water? Okay? Routines is a course of action to be followed regularly. So you practice it with the routines. So you have to think about the procedure. You figure out all the tiny, minute steps in the procedure, and then you practice it over and over and over, right? And that takes a lot of time. Okay, that takes a lot of time. So as you're thinking about your classes, think about last year, okay, the areas that the students kind of struggled in, the areas that you felt you had maybe a few more discipline problems, it might be because you don't have a procedure for that, right? If you're trying to get everybody stretching and you're like, it takes them forever to get, they won't circle up. Have you taught them to circle up? Have you taught them how to get there? Are they all running and then just running around? And even if they do get in the circle, are they like running across the middle of the circle to get to the other side? Right? You have to think in very minute detail for each of these procedures. If you have that down, you teach that, then the students know the expectation. Here's what I'm expected to do, okay? And when they know, they have less anxiety. Okay. All right, so warm-ups. So these next few are just some tips that I've found that works for me. Like I said, my spaces are very small, so I've had to like figure out how to maximize space but keep students safe. I have around 30 students per class, so having 30 students trying to do all those warm-ups, very little space, I have to have those procedures in place, and then we have to practice them. So I would do numbered lanes. I used on the blacktop, I just took some duct tape, taped down the number. I had lanes 1 through 8, and then I had students line up 1 through 8. As many lanes as you can safely fit. I would have about a foot in between, so that they're not banging elbows trying to do warm-ups. Okay. So you think about safety, but as many students as you can have moving at once is better, right? Because we don't want students standing around. And then I would do 1 scholar per whistle, okay? And that's really difficult for kindergarten, right? You blow 1 whistle and like half the group goes, okay? Right? Yeah, sorry. You're like, no, come back, and that's where the routine, right? Then we have to practice it. No, all right, this time, everybody in front, when I blow the whistle, you go. Everybody behind, don't go, right? You have to practice it. And I use kindergarten a lot as my example is because if they can do it, 4th graders can do it, right? So by the end of the year, I was able to just have my whistle and just beep, 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 and then they would just go. They would just go. So they can do it. Next slide. Keep it moving, and then transitions every step of the way, right? I have a transition from welcoming them in class to warm-ups. Then there's a transition from warm-ups to when I explain what we're doing for the day. Then there's a transition from, all right, now we're explaining what I do, to let's go do it, right? Transition from the activity to water breaks, activity to stretching. So transitions are important. What am I doing? All right. So here's one thing that I forgot up in my speedy mode up here. Did I explain it? Did I model it? So let's think about the obstacle course. Did I model everything? Yeah? I did. I showed them how to do it, right? I didn't have the students model before we started, did I? That is a very key component, right? Because we think we explain things amazing. That was a great explanation. But in their minds, they're like, I have no clue what to do. So, explain it, you model it, but then have 1 or 2 students model. Can you show us how to go through this? That way students can see their own peers going through, right? And then you have the scholars go do it, okay? All right, next slide. Activities, keep your objective in mind so that you don't get, because there's all these different things we can talk about in everything, right? So stay focused on one thing. Find an objective for that day, stick with it, right? If my objective for the obstacle course is maybe like the squats and like the medicine ball slam, watch the other things, but focus on that one, right? Focus on that one objective so the students know what that one objective is. Some need guided, some need like, oh, come on, you can do it. Some students need to be pushed a little bit. Come on, you can do it. Right? There's a little difference in that tone, right? Students that you see, they can do everything and maybe they're just not putting in the effort that day, right? So do that. Keep your eyes open, positioning, okay? Like I said, I'm doing now. I'm trying to move around as much as possible, even proximity, right? He's definitely paying attention. I'm standing right next to him, right? Those students that maybe have a little difficulty focusing, stand right next to him. It'll help them focus a little bit. And then transitions again, right? There's always transition. All right, next one. Stretching, we talked about the importance of circling up. Everybody's equal. Everybody can see each other. You can see everybody, okay? And if you set the culture of the class so that everybody's always encouraging each other, you'll start getting the students regulate each other. Tommy, pay attention, please. We're trying to do stretches, right? Or, hey, put your hands up. He's waiting. Okay, so they can start regulating themselves. Stretching. Stretching, it's at the end of class, so it should be kind of a calming time, right? So one of my friends up here, I reminded, hey, can you maybe not scream out your stretching numbers, right? Because if your after-school program, after you, they go home, right? If you're in a school setting, after you, they might be going to their general classroom teacher. You want them nice and calm when they go in, okay? You don't want them going in all crazy, because then the next teacher or the parents eventually have to calm them down, right? So if you can do that, everybody has a great time. We talked about the Fit Kid of the Day. I call it MVP. I'll be changing that this year.
Good job. Thank you.
See, we're all learning. We're all learning. And it's scholar-led. Like, give that responsibility. Give these students practice with that. And then transitions again. Way behind time. How much time?
No, you're fine. You're good.
How much time do you think I have?
I think if we finish up in 10 minutes.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Like I said, I talk more. All right. So go ahead. Next slide. So behavior. If you notice, my students were amazingly behaved, right? I didn't have any, very few behavior problems. Is that normal? Yeah, we all know. Come on, let's be rude, right? I had a student just running around, just yelling, right? So here's what I've found works really well. Have 2 areas. Again, this is a procedure that you have to teach. Have 2 areas. Have one area that's your kid chooses it. Hey, can I take a break? Can I calm down? Okay. I would suggest work with if you're at a school, if it's an after-school program, you're at a school, work with the school. They might have a school-wide language for this. Many of the classrooms will have this, okay? So that way, maybe students feel, see, I'm already out of time. That's all right, I'll finish it. So many times the classroom will have this. So you have one that's student, they choose. Hey, can I take a break real quick? Okay, go. Have a timer there, right? Someone just go and never come back, okay? So have a timer there. I do 3 minutes. Probably definitely not more than 5, because again, our goal is we want them moving. We want them active. Hey, they need a break? Okay, great. Go take a break. Come back real quick. Go. Okay? And then have one that's teacher chosen, right? And I've been trying to work with Lawrence, and he's having a rough day today. All right, Lawrence, I need you to go in step by step. Okay? Again, same 3-minute timer. Just go there. You're not trying to figure out what happened because you have a whole class to run. Okay. After the class is over, find time to then have those conversations. Hey, what's going on today? Right? Because that's building that relationship part. Simon Says is a great game, right? And if you get a whole line, you're waiting for teachers to come pick up the class, you're waiting for parents to come pick up students, you have them in a line. Simon Says is a great way to keep them engaged, keep them focused on something, because they're always going to be focused on something. So you want to have the focus align with what you want. Okay? Everybody else, go ahead and have a seat. Great job. Sorry we didn't have more time. So think about your procedures. Think about what procedures do I need to have in place. And think every little step. How do I specifically teach those? All right, next slide. Great. If you have any questions, here's my info. I'm more than happy to respond. I'm really good at email, not so good at text. So keep moving, and thank you.